Hello everybody, welcome back to 10 Minute Reviews. Jason here. Sorry it's been a little while since I posted a video. I'll try and make this pretty quick. Thank you to all of our patrons, all of our supporters. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to check the links down below for links to today's book and anything else that we might find applicable. I need to have some traffic through that Amazon thing that you guys suggest in order for it to keep going. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into today's video. So today's video I'm going to be talking about a new author. I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of books this author has written because I've read just about everything he's written at this point now, but I haven't talked about him in the past. The author's name is James Haddock. James Haddock. And he is an interesting author. There's a few things that I'm not a huge fan of within his writing, but hopefully things will get better. So this book I'm going to talk about Rise of the Shadow Mage. That's the title of this book. Before I get into it, I will briefly touch upon some of the things that I don't like about Haddock's books. Number one is they're fairly formulaic. He's got about 4 or 5, well, maybe not that many, 2 or 3 out of the 10 or so that don't follow this form, but all the rest of them, they follow the same thing. Which actually is another one of his weaknesses. He's real bad about the build-up. He's not very good at the build-up, the beginning of his story. Like, he has this idea of the character in the story, but the backstory, the beginning, he's not very good at. So what for a lot of authors might be a couple of chapters, oftentimes end up being maybe 2 pages, and half of that is just exposition. For instance, there's one book where the character is a child, family killed, and actually, you know, that's not this book. The parallels are there. So in this book, we have Robert, who is a child. He's a child of magicians. This is a fantasy-esque world, whose parents are killed. Actually, all magicians are killed. The magicians' quarter, where they all live, is basically raised by the military. All of them are killed, and Robert has to go on his own. Now, typically, this might be 1 or 2 chapters. This is like a page and a half. Before getting into the main thrust of the book. So that's one of Haddock's main weaknesses. He's not very good at the beginning parts, and he's very, very, very formulaic in his books, but the books are a blast. They're a blast. They're a lot of fun, so I've enjoyed them up to this point. The only other knock I would give to him is he comes up with a story he likes to write. He writes that story. He writes a very bad beginning, but luckily it's so short you can get right through it, to get into a really fun story. Really, really fun story. Now, some of the formula you guys may not like, because almost every one of his books is basically a video game of empire building. I think that's fun, the way that, you know, the character's building up this economic or business or mercantile empire, sometimes even an actual empire, kingdoms and stuff like that. Again, very, very formulaic. Every one of his books, every one of his characters builds it up, and oftentimes multiple times. As they build it up, something happens, build it up again, something happens, build it up again. I enjoy stuff like that. Not everyone's going to enjoy it, but there's action, there's magic, all of his books. So with Robert, again, family killed, and his family were magicians, wizards, and through reasons, this child, Robert, ends up being apprenticed, basically, not apprenticed, is put into the royal guard within the city. He's put in there as, you know, a boot, as not even a private, and has to learn. And he's learning pretty well, and he ends up befriending the prince of this kingdom, because all the princes have to spend some time in the guard, and they show up as a boot. So Robert befriends the prince, and during this time, one of the things I really like about James Haddock's writing style is when he's got like a training period or a period of real change within a character, he doesn't make it an entire book. He might make it just a couple of chapters. If a character goes into a 5-year training period, he does not write that out every freaking month worth of training. He'll bring up a couple things to give you an idea of how the training is, and then he'll take a time jump about 3 years. There's no need to get into the backstory of how this character, you know, go into every single bit of his swordsmanship training or his stealth training or whatever training that he gets. So Robert grows up within the guard, befriends the prince. He eventually discovers he has magic, and this is where I get into one of the things that I enjoy, but is very, very formulaic, is all of his characters are basically gods. Once they discover their magic, they have abilities to do things that nobody else apparently anywhere on the planet can do or has ever been able to do. They're able to meld into a wall. They're able to walk through walls. They're able to travel through wood, travel underground. Underground's a big one. Walls, underground, or shadows are his three big things. They're able to create their own rooms, bedrooms, houses in the shadows. Nobody else can get to them. Perfectly safe. In a room, just melt into the wall and create your own, somehow create your own big thing there, or in the shadows. And same thing, everybody has a bag of holding. Sometimes it's a deck of cards, sometimes it's a book, but every one of his characters are overpowered, almost god level by halfway through the book, and can wipe out entire armies of wizards, and can disappear, have big rooms inside the shadows, fast travel, and carry unlimited amounts of stuff with them. Very much a power fantasy type of thing, part of the formula. But the formula works. The formula works. The formula is a lot of fun. I mean, it may sound like I'm really knocking the author because he has a lot of formulaic stuff, but so what? I do wish that he would expand a little bit from it, but again, so what? His books are a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. These characters are, again, overpowered eventually, and they're just a blast. And the worlds he builds are actually a lot of fun. And there's a reason he has 10 or so books. They may be formulaic, but they're a blast. So if you guys like fantasy, there's no harem in it, none of the spicy stuff. And if you guys like fantasy, if you guys like magic, check out Rise of the Shadow Mage. It's a great entry into Haddock's books. And I think I forgot to mention the other thing I don't like. He creates these great worlds, but then he doesn't follow up. Like, he'll create a great world, and all of his books seem to end in ways that there could be a second book. And I think he's written a second book twice out of like 8 or 10 first books. Maybe the second book, maybe twice. I've yet to come across anything with a third book. So he does kind of leave you hanging a lot, but he does wrap up the storyline of each book. But again, this just leaves so much potential left over for follow-on books. But again, he made the characters too powerful to start with. Who knows? But they're a lot of fun. They really are. So if you like fantasy, if you like magic, you like swords and sorcery, if you like characters that can do magic and fight with swords and build up mercantile businesses and empires and trade empires and stuff like that, become kingmakers, become kings, check out James Haddock. His books are a lot of fun. Thank you everybody for watching. We will catch you next time. Bye now.